don't act like you didn't see this one coming. You know that a lot of people are going to be pissed at this announcement. And of course, that means that I'm probably going to do a rant about it. And I am doing a rant about it. Because this is just stupid. Okay? Now, let me tell you a brief history about my relationship with me and Tomb Raider. Every single main console game that has came out, I have owned and I have completed. In fact, up to the reboots, I have owned every console Tomb Raider game twice. Once on their official console, the other one on Steam. And to hear this, quite frankly, bullshit, is just... that relationship may be over now. Because of fucking Crystal Dynamics. I mean, it's like... we live in an age now where third-party exclusives are dead. Okay, you are not going... the only third-party exclusives you're going to see is on the Wii U. And that's just because of how the Wii U has this technology, the tablets, to put in. So, obviously, a game made for the Wii U, it's going to be very difficult to work on any other console, especially if it utilizes the Wii U tablet. It's like, how do you do that, on the other consoles when they don't have that? So, obviously, third parties, it's going to be on Nintendo. But that doesn't matter, because Nintendo doesn't give a fuck about beating the other contenders. All they care about is basically turning enough profits to stay up. That's it. They don't care about winning the console war. All they want to do, they just want to do their own thing. And so long as they have the money to keep going year after year, to keep growing and such, that's all they care about. They're not there with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One trying to outmuscle each other. Okay? So exclusives, third-party exclusives are dead. Okay? Compare like when exclusives first began to now. There are barely any that's pretty much no third-party games that are exclusive to a single console now. Unless you include PC, but for the sake of argument, just for the sheer fucking sake of argument, we are not going to include the PC for this one. And it's dumb. It's really, really dumb that Tomb Raider would do this, just like, oh, we're going to go ahead and make it the Rise of the Tomb Raider Xbox One exclusive. And I don't get you. I cannot see from a business standpoint how this can be any better. I fail to grasp how this could be better. Okay? And a lot of people are probably thinking that I'm overreacting. They're probably going to turn around and argue and say, well, wait a minute. You say that you've played every single Tomb Raider game. Surely you've forgotten that the original Tomb Raiders were PlayStation only. And you're right. You are absolutely right. The original Tomb Raiders, the first 5, were only available on the PlayStation. You're totally right about that one. But here's my argument. Here is the reason. Here's my argument. Back then, Tomb Raider was not this mammoth of a franchise. Okay? And back then, to develop stuff was nowhere near as expensive as it was now. Like, you hear, like, oh, it costs, like, GTA 5, 700 million to make. It's just like, you hear these huge numbers. Back then, that didn't exist. Okay, the most expensive games developed was not even in the double digits of millions. Okay, a while back, the most expensive game ever made was Shenmue, and I believe that was around 20 to 50 million. Yeah, so about 20 to 50 million. Okay, and that was a generation previously. Back when the PlayStation came out, you were getting budgets of several hundred thousand, at the most a couple of million. Okay? It never got into the hundreds of millions. So naturally, to develop these games, it wasn't expensive. So naturally, They didn't have to port it over. In fact, they couldn't afford to. All their money went into making the game. It's why you saw so many companies like rise and fall, like during that era. It wasn't simply because of a bad game. It was because of a bad game, obviously, but it was mostly because if a game doesn't deliver, it's gone because it just couldn't. It was expensive to develop games, like it still is, but like back then, obviously, there wasn't the support that developers have today. Like there was no indie scene back then, so they had to get funding in order to do anything, and if they couldn't get it, well, tough shit, file for bankruptcy. And that's the thing, like that is why Tomb Raider could get away with being on only one console, back in the day. It's because of the simple fact that back then, it was cheaper to develop games, and they couldn't afford to port it over. And you're probably thinking, well, maybe that's the reason here. No. At this point, Tomb Raider is a monster of a franchise, okay? It's been ported to every goddamn console since Tomb Raider Legends. Okay? And it's just, it blows my mind that they're reverting back to this. Because it's like, okay, if this Tomb Raider reboot, if the entire Tomb Raider reboot was only available on one console, if it was a console exclusive from day one, then I would have no qualms. Okay, because then I could relate it to the Sony, being on Sony only. But no, instead, what they've done is that they've gone this audience on all of the consoles. You've got them interested, you've got them invested, you've got them hyped for the sequel, and then you've just taken them, you have throttled them, you've raped them, you've thrown them into an alleyway and just said, no, we're only going to go ahead and focus on one console. And it's the wrong console to focus on. I'm sorry, okay? But the Xbox One, out of the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and the PC, I know I said I'm not going to include the PC, but I have to because in this argument, okay? The Xbox One is the one that's selling the least. The fucking least. And you may be saying that, well, Rise of the Tomb Raider is a system seller. It's not. Okay, it is far from that. Tomb Raider has never been a system seller. Not once. Not ever. Never has Tomb Raider been a system seller. You may be arguing that back when it was on the PlayStation, oh yeah, that was a system seller because that was a good game. No. There was not a system seller because it was a good game, okay? Back then, it wasn't a system seller. Crash wasn't a system seller. Spyro wasn't. Final Fantasy wasn't. Okay, the reason why the PlayStation... what was a system seller for the PlayStation 1, I hear you ask? Well, the fact that it itself is technology. That's what its system seller was. It was a disc-based console. We'd never seen it before. It was from a new company. A company stepping into the games industry. We were curious. And we saw like, oh, it can run disc, which means you can have bigger games. Cool. It never was a system seller. And let me tell you, it's not going to be a system seller for the Xbox One. Okay? You want to know why? Because if you look at the sales of Tomb Raider 2013, 6.7 million. 6.7 million. Even, and it only got like half of that stuff from the Definitive Edition. Half of those sales came from the PlayStation 4. Okay? And clearly Crystal Dynamics don't look at statistics. Because Sony announced at Gamescom, we have sold over 10 million PlayStation 4s. Individual PlayStation 4s. That is 10 million potential customers. As I said, they are not going to buy Rise of the Tomb Raider. They're not going to buy an Xbox One just for Rise of the Tomb Raider. Okay? If they people aren't that dumb anymore. Okay? People aren't going to buy a game console for a single solitary game. Because consoles are expensive. The online is expensive. Like, all this stuff about it costs a lot. Okay? They are not going to just go ahead and be like, oh, I see this one game, I'm going to buy it, okay? And the people that do that, no offense, but you're fucking stupid. It's like, you... You don't buy a games console for a single game anymore. In fact, you never should have. You should have bought the console because of several games. Not because of one. Because what's going to happen when you get bored of that one game? You better damn hope that the console has other games to spark your interest. I've made that mistake. I bought a PSP solely, entirely down to wanting Valkyria Chronicles 2. I regret my purchase because I finished Valkyria Chronicles 2. I got bored. There's nothing on the PSP that interests me. I played some God of War on it. Completed that. It was decent. Played some Worms on it. I regret my decision. Horribly. And this is what I'm getting at. This is why it's a bad idea. But, like, it's not just a bad idea, just... I am trying so hard. I am trying so fucking hard to find a reason as to why Crystal Dynamics thinks this is a smart idea. You're taking a franchise that isn't a system seller. It's a big franchise, don't get me wrong, but it's not a system seller. People are not going to be scrambling over each other to get this game on this console. Okay, they'll be scrambling over to get the game, but not so much to get the console. Okay, they're taking a franchise that's not a system seller. They are making it exclusive to a console that, compared to its competitor, the PlayStation 4, isn't doing so good. I think there's like 4 million, 5 million Xbox One sold. Somebody can go ahead and quote me wrong on this one, but it's just like, I know for a fact that the Xbox One is selling less than the PlayStation 4. And on top of that, did Crystal Dynamics not learn from Tomb Raider 2013? For those of you who don't know, it wasn't until a definitive edition sold 1 million copies that Square turned around and says, now Tomb Raider has met our expectations. The game had to sell 5 million times to be considered their expectations. Are you maybe thinking, oh, well, you know, maybe they turn it down? No. With Square Enix, there's only one thing that happens if a game doesn't meet expectations, okay? They shelve it. If a game does not meet expectations, no second chances, no pulling back on their standards, they just shelve it. Unless it's Final Fantasy. They just shelve it. They stop caring. It's like, well, it's not working. Goodbye, franchise. Tomb Raider was so close to being shelved. It had to sell fucking 5 million copies. 5 million. Which, as I said, don't quote me. I'm probably wrong. I haven't checked. But I believe that's about how many Xbox Ones are out right now. So by that logic, Tomb Raider has to sell on every single Xbox One console in order to meet expectations, right? So Tomb Raider has to sell that much to meet those expectations. It's not going to manage. It can't. Especially now, like the current demographic of gamers, they're into your first-person shooters. Yeah, sure, third-person shooters do decently, but not that decently. I mean, I believe Gears of War 3, which was a system seller back when it first came out on the Xbox. It was a system seller because it looked amazing and it was really like dark and gritty and such. I believe that Gears of War 3 only sold like 4 million. 4 million! In the later stages of the Xbox 360's lifespan. 4 million! When there were like 30 million Xbox 360s out there. 4 million! Not even Not even, only just 10%. Only just 10% of the people who owned an Xbox 360 bought Gears of War 3. You know, it's like, the demographics changed. They don't want third-person, like, platforming games. They want that kind of, it's just like, on top of that, if we really want to do this, like, people have pointed out, Angry Joe has pointed out, people in the comments on their post trying to basically say, oh, this is our reason behind it, have pointed it out on why this is the wrong console to put it on. Uncharted outsold Tomb Raider. I believe it was Uncharted 3 outsold Tomb Raider 2013. And it still is. Uncharted 3, a game that was released on the last generation of consoles, has outsold a game that was released on all the last gen consoles except for the Wii and the PlayStation 4. It has outsold it. It's still outselling it by miles. You don't want that piece of the pie? You don't want, because it's like, again, I'm gonna say it right now. I say Tomb Raider isn't a system seller. Uncharted is. Okay, you release it on the same console as Uncharted, and Naughty Dog releases an Uncharted game, which, oh, lo and behold, they have announced Uncharted 4. It's like, just sit back. The money's gonna come in. It's like, I'm not a person that shows favoritism, but I'm sorry, Sony's winning this console war. Sony's winning this generation right now. And it's like, you seem to be completely and utterly oblivious to this fact. Because you're putting it on the console that is probably not going to work. What do people like to play most on the Xbox One? I wonder. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Oh yeah! Shooters. That's what the Xbox One is known for. Shooters. Halo, Call of Duty. Like, everyone, I think everyone can agree that Call of Duty is played more on the Microsoft consoles than the PC or the PS or the Sony consoles. Okay, I think everyone can agree on that. Okay, Xbox is known for shooters. And you're saying, oh, well, Tomb Raider is a shooter. No. It's a shooter, yes, but it's more in depth than that. Okay, I know people hated some people hated the Tomb Raider reboot, but you have to admit, it is not all about shooting. Okay, it is about platforming and story and all that kind of stuff. It is not about shooting. And unless you want to turn Rise of the Tomb Raider into just a fucking shooter, it's not going to do well. And even then, it's probably not going to be up Square's expectations. Okay, because Square is so fucking high themselves that they are going to look at the sales of the Xbox One. It's just like, it sold less than our 2013 re-release. Well, I suppose it hasn't met up expectations. They were higher now since the last one sold. So, let us shelve a franchise that has existed for nearly 20 years. My biggest hope is that this is just a timed exclusive. It has to be a timed exclusive because I just said it. You don't reboot a franchise and then decide midway through that reboot that you're gonna put it on a single console. You don't do that. You shouldn't even think of doing that. It doesn't matter how much they offer. Make a fucking spin-off. Make a side series. Make a spin-off of the game. Of this franchise. Okay? And it's just like, here's the last real kicker. Okay? In the statement, they said, don't worry. PlayStation 4 users, you still have Tomb Raider the Definitive Edition. You remember when the Xbox One got announced? I know this sounds off topic, but I'm getting to my point here. Do you remember when the Xbox One got announced? Everyone was complaining. Every single person was complaining. Every single person was complaining about the always online. Everyone. And despite that, what did they say about it? Well, if you don't have online, there is an offline device. It's called Xbox 360. You have just done that! You have just basically done the game equivalent of the Xbox 360. You have just done that! You have basically said, oh, if you don't have this, then, well, screw you. You can only have the previous generation's game. That's not fair. That is, okay, it's just like, what the hell? And also, especially, it's like, I don't know what you're thinking with that statement. I really don't. If you don't have an Xbox One, there's an alternative. It's called Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. Oh, you mean the PC version of a game that came out a year ago? That's going to be your little, oh, don't worry about it, we still love you. You're giving PlayStation 4 owners to get the PC version of the game on their PlayStation 4. Of a game that came out a year ago. And us people on the PC get nothing. No. No, that is... No. You're doing what Don Matriarch did when they announced the Xbox One being online only. There is an offline device. It's called Xbox 360. Now, if you don't have internet for the Xbox One, there is an offline device. It's called Xbox 360. If you don't have an Xbox One, for Rise of the Tomb Raider, there is an alternative. It's called the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. Or fuck you if you're PC. As I said, I'm hoping to God that this is just... I'm hoping. I am seriously hoping that this is just going to be a time exclusive. Like a year down the line. Now announcing the definitive edition for PC and PlayStation 4 of Rise of the Tomb Raider. I hope. Because as it stands right now, it's going on a console. They're taking a franchise that is not a big system seller. They're putting it on a console that is not doing too hot compared to the PlayStation 4. And it's a franchise that belongs to Square Enix, a company known for shelving games that don't meet their expectations, and ones that had high expectations of a Tomb Raider that only a year later, after 5 million copies and a definitive edition, the PC ported over to the PlayStation 4. That's when it finally met expectations. And you're making it exclusive on probably the least selling of the two competitive consoles. As I said, Wii U, it's not trying to outmuscle. It's just trying to survive. Like, so long as it makes enough to survive, it doesn't care about the other two consoles. All it cares about is just enough to survive. It isn't competing. It's just there. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that as it's a bad thing. Like, if Nintendo doesn't want to outmuscle the competition. They just want to make games, and then they want to make enough to survive. That's what they want. But Microsoft, Sony, they do want to outmuscle each other. And you're putting it on the one that is losing this arm wrestling match exclusively. When the franchise is owned by a company known to shelve things that, if they don't meet expectations, zip, that's it, dead. One chance only. No second chances. Done. Gone. Bye. So long. Someone's gonna have to buy the franchise from us in order to bring it back. I've been playing Tomb Raider since it first came out. I've played every single console game. Tomb Raider 1, 2, 3, Last Revolution, Chronicles, Angel of Darkness, Legends, Anniversary, Underworld, 2013. I even played Guardian of Light. I've had a nice relationship with Tomb Raider. We had a bit of a rough spot at Angel of Darkness, but for the most part, we've had a nice relationship. They announce a game, I get it, I play it, I enjoy it. And as I said, it's the Tomb Raider franchise, not a system seller. It is, despite what people think, it is not a system seller. It is not going to get people in their drones buying an Xbox One. It's not. Despite what Crystal Dynamics thinks, it's not. It might get a couple of sales, but it's not going to get enough to. It's not a system seller. It's just not. And it's not going to be one for me either. I'm not getting an Xbox One just for Rise of the Tomb Raider. I'm sorry, Crystal Dynamics. I'm not going to do that. The Xbox One doesn't have enough stuff to interest me to get it. So it could potentially be that this relationship, that this happy relationship that me and Tomb Raider have had for almost 20 years, it looks like it's over. 20 years. 20 years we've had a happy relationship. And now me and Tomb Raider are going to have to go our separate ways. Unless they say that it is a timed exclusive. I'm holding on to that. Just like how, people hold on to the hope that they'll change. I'm hoping that Tomb Raider changes and doesn't and is only a timed exclusive, because otherwise a relationship, this relationship of a franchise that I've had for years, probably more consistent than even the Sonic the Hedgehog relationship I've had, because I fucking said it before, Sonic is my childhood. I grew up with it. I played his games, but it's like I'm willing to skip a couple of games. I don't mind skipping a couple of Sonic games, so long as the ones that I enjoy. But like with this one, it's like I've gotten every single Tomb Raider console game since the first one, and I feel cheated now, because the idea that you can put a third party, I mean, it's like, don't get me wrong, you can make third party exclusives. I'm not saying that third party exclusives is bad, but we're living in an industry now where they can't afford third-party exclusives. If Grand Theft Auto 5 went the way that it went when it first came out, PlayStation and PlayStation 2 only. Well, no, PlayStation only, actually, yeah. And then, like, PlayStation 2, like, to begin with. GTA 5, Rockstar probably wouldn't have survived if they had only made GTA 5 on a single console. 700 million to make Grand Theft Auto 5. None of the consoles have sold enough individually. I say think. Wait, no. They have, but it would have to have done what basically Rise of the Tomb Raider is going to have to do in order to match the expectations of the 2013 Tomb Raider. It would have to sell for every single individual console. So those people that have got two 360s or two Xbox Ones or such in their house, each one would have to have its own individual copy. And there is no way, as I said, third-party exclusives are pretty much dead now, and Tomb Raider is not a system seller. It's not going to sell for every single console. It's not going to sell for every single person who owns an Xbox One. It's not going to send drones of people buying an Xbox One. If you want that kind of stuff, that's for Call of Duty. $20 years, and it looks like this relationship might be over. Thanks everyone for watching me rant for half an hour. I'll catch you guys next time.